All right, folks. Good morning. My name's Jeremy. I'm a physical therapist, and I'm gonna make this video to discuss some, I guess you would call it, professional development opportunities, or something along those lines. Basically, I've been a therapist for about going on 13 years, and I've spent the majority of that time in one location, and as a result, I've had the opportunity to watch how the therapy world has changed and how the facility in which I work has um, dealt with those changes. And in addition to that, as you can imagine, being in a single place for somewhere, close to 12 to 13 years, you have opportunities to either take on more responsibility or to take on different roles, different positions within the facility. And so I want to spend a few minutes discussing an opportunity that I had not too long ago around the first of the year. And but first, before we go there, I'd like to tell you a little bit more about me, a little bit more about my background. And I'm an acute care physical therapist. That's the setting in which I've worked. I've worked in multiple settings. I've worked in outpatient orthopedics. I've worked in home health, those types of things. And I found myself, 12 years ago, looking at an opportunity to work in a hospital. And I worked in a hospital as a rehab tech prior to going to physical therapy school when I was in college to make a little money and also earn observation hours or volunteer hours. It weren't volunteer because I was getting paid, but to earn observation hours to go through the application process for physical therapy, for the physical therapy school. And so I'd had my fill of working in a hospital. At least I thought at that point I did. And so go through therapy school, graduate. I'm married. I have a son on the way, and I work in outpatient orthopedics and loved it for the most part. It was working a whole lot of hours and needed to find a better fit for me and my relatively new family at that particular point. So I went to home health for a little while and didn't mind that too much either. But I had an opportunity to go work at a local acute care facility here, a local hospital. And it's about a 350 bed hospital. And I've worked there, like I said earlier, for about 12 to 13 years. Several years ago, probably 2018, a good friend of mine who was my coworker from 2014 to 2018, he had the opportunity and took the opportunity to become the director of rehab for our hospital, and things were great. And we made lots of positive changes, and then COVID happened, and that kind of put everybody into a whirlwind for a little while until we wrapped our head around how to best deal with that. And things changed immensely, as many people will testify to across the healthcare industry, across multiple industries. I'm fond of saying now that there's a new BC and period, and that was I call it before COVID, and then you have, of course, the fallout and what has taken place since then, and I call that AC, after COVID. And so that's kind of a local joke in our office, in our hospital. And at any rate, he was the director through those tricky and difficult times, just to put it plainly. And about middle of 2025, he started having discussions with me about my interest in becoming the rehab director. Should he take another role in the hospital or find another role in a different location, a different facility somewhere else, because back in 2021, I became the rehab supervisor. So because he needed some help taking care of the department while he did other things in the facility, and I had the opportunity to, step in and be basically his assistant manager, if you will. But the technical term was physical therapy supervisor, and so I did that, and have been doing that since 2021, early 2022, and so. Yeah, that's a little background as to like why he was having the conversations with me about my interest in becoming the rehab director. And so I thought about it seriously, and thought about what that would mean for me. And basically, this is where I landed. Okay, I did not expect the deliberation to become the rehab director or not to be as tricky or as difficult as it was. And so most of this video and the rest of this video, I want to just highlight some of the things that I had to consider and some of the things that came across my mind as to, do I take the job? Do I apply for the rehab director's job, or do I let it pass? And I'll cut to the chase and say that I let it pass, and I hope to explain why, and hopefully help someone who is considering something similar, whether it's in the physical therapy industry or the healthcare industry or any other industry. Some things to think about before you take a position in middle management, which is what this particular position would be. If you don't know, at a hospital, typically speaking, the hierarchy is you have the administrative office, and that's where your CEO, CFO, CMO, VP of operations, titles like that, that's where they operate out of. And then you have all of the middle managers, which are the managers and or supervisors over each respective department within a hospital. And so a hospital our size has many departments, and so there are lots of middle managers there, and so rehab is one of them, obviously. And that opportunity came to me and was put before me, and so I had some decisions to make and some things to think about. And so here's what I thought. Okay, so the pros were it would be more money, it would be slightly more time flexibility, or I would say maybe just an alteration in time flexibility. And so those were the two biggest positives. Okay, those are the two biggest, blatantly obvious positives. Would be more money and maybe to a degree some independence in how I work my day as far as hours are concerned. The negatives for me were it was going to take me out of patient care, and it was going to mean that I needed to be available to the administrative office at any given time on any given day. Maybe not on night shift, because therapy services is not provided at our facility on night shift. But every day of the week, I would need to be available via phone or physically available during the daytime hours to address any concerns or questions that may arise at our facility relevant to physical therapy or rehab services in general. So occupational, speech, or rehab. Occupational, physical, or speech therapy. And so as I thought about that, and I thought about where I am in my life currently, I have 4 kids now, and heavily involved in things in our community. And my kids' ages are between 12 and 7 years old, and so they're very involved with things and as well. And I'm adjacent to them and involved in like coaching and facilitating certain things and church activities, those types of things. And they require a lot of my time outside of work. And so in my decision to pass on the promotion, the VP of operations, which is who would be my direct supervisor, should I become the rehab director, he asked me very plainly. He said, "Well, why are you passing on the opportunity?" And I told him that, you know, part of it was because I did not envision myself away from patient care at this point. And I'll maybe make another video as to why I feel that way, and I feel like I have good reasons for that. And I'm not saying that it's bad to be out of patient care. I'm just saying for me right now, at our particular facility, I did not feel like that was a favorable move for me to make. The second and somewhat more important, probably the most important reason, is because I let it pass because I just couldn't promise him or the facility that I would be directly available at any given time on any given day to answer a question, especially not when I'm with my children and trying to be engaged and be present in different activities that, you know, we are involved in frequently. And one of the questions I asked him was, if it's 10 a.m. on a Saturday and you call me because there's a concern that needs my attention at the hospital, and I don't return your response or return your call until 5:30 p.m., would that be okay? And he said, no, he didn't think so. And I told him I didn't think so either, and that it would be a regular occurrence that may occur, that I could not promise him that I would be available at any given moment on a weekend, during the day, or in the early afternoons during the day, because my day is filled up from the time I leave work until I arrive back at my home most days. And so I thought, and what I told him was, I think the rehab director needs to be comfortable with assuming that level of availability. And I just wasn't ready to do that, quite plainly. And he understood, and that was that. Now, there have been many folks that have told me since then that they were very upset or sad, not upset, sad, that I was not going to take the position because they thought I was a good fit, and certain family members that were thinking that I missed a very positive opportunity. And maybe in some ways I did, but my job right now is to think about what would be best for my family and what would be best for me, and be honest with where I think my strengths are as a physical therapist right now, and where I need to have my priorities, both as a therapist and as a dad and a husband of 4 kids that will soon be, looking to move on to their next stage of life. My son's 12. I have about 6 to 8 more years with him at home, probably. And so I just felt like they needed me more than they needed Dad to have a promotion, so that I made, 10 to 15% more a year. And so I'll tell you guys, it wasn't an easy decision to make. I felt like I was letting people down. I felt like I was, quote unquote, being lazy or just passing on responsibility. And maybe there's an element of that, but I do know that I have limited resources when it comes to time and energy. And the assessment that I made for myself was that position was going to require and take up more time and more energy, and it was going to take it away from my family. In my current position, I am able to provide for my family well, and while I have to be mindful of how we spend money, and just like anyone does these days, my wife's able to stay home, we homeschool our kids, and it was my assessment that we did not need more right now. This is not to say that down the road, several years, if I have more time, if my level of involvement and responsibility as it relates to my kids and the things that they're involved in, if that decreases, I'm always open to exploring options down the road. But I wanted to discuss this because I don't feel like I'm the only one that has to consider these things. And if there's a young man or young lady that is looking at their professional career and thinking, do I take the promotion? Do I seek out more opportunities and more responsibilities at work? And if I do that, what are the things I should think about? I'm hoping just to give you a little more clarity, maybe some alternatives, because guys, we live in a hustle culture, and we live in a culture that tells you to do more, be more, all of the time, and there's something to that. I think there's a pushback against laziness, and we shouldn't be lazy. We shouldn't um, be seeking to take our talents and not use them, or not explore them and see if there's fruit at the end of the vine and things that we can become good at. However, I'm saying that when you have a family and you have other priorities, you only have limited resources with which to spend on those priorities, and you have to be clear on what they are. There's a When you work in a facility, they're going to want the high performers, and I'm not necessarily calling myself a high performer, but I've had favorable employee evaluations, and I became the physical therapy supervisor, and so I was, by many people's estimation, I was the obvious choice to become the rehab director. And when I chose to let it pass, it surprised a lot of folks, and so I've had to become real clear on, had become real clear on why either did or did not want to pursue that opportunity. And so I'm hoping that, hearing my perspective, and there's more context to it as well. There's a degree of complexity when it comes to the direction of the facility and the values of the facility and all those things. And maybe I'll make another video about those things in the future, because they certainly were part of my consideration as well. But my primary drivers were, I just had to be honest with myself and say, maybe it wasn't the right time for me to take a position that's going to take more time away from my family and require me to be available and present during the daytime hours on any given day. And so that's the long and the short of that particular story. So I'm hoping that it resonates with someone. It wasn't an easy decision to make, and I don't pretend that it is an easy decision for anyone to make, nor am I saying that my decision was the right one for everyone. I'm simply saying that I would encourage you to really spend time in prayer, spend time discussing it with family, other folks that have walked that path before you. That was a big element in my decision. And ask them and seek guidance on what is best for you in that particular in your particular situation. And I'm hoping to be maybe one small voice in helping you navigate a situation like that. So until next time, guys, I hope this video found you well, and I hope it was helpful to you in some way. More videos to come in the future about some of the more detailed items and considerations that I had to consider. So until next time, stay well, and we'll see you soon.